Good morning and welcome to OLC4O Term 1B. This is our first class of this course. So thank you for tuning in today, or maybe you're watching on the YouTube channel, so more on that later. So thanks for joining us on this course. So this is the Ontario Literacy course, and I'm going to walk us through today's morning announcements. So I'm going to start every class with some important announcements. As we go on throughout the year, some of this stuff is going to become second nature, but it's really important to go through it so we're all on the same page and you know what to expect. So this is the first week of classes in Term 1B. We will continue to broadcast until the last day of class, which will be January 26th, 2023. We do have a 2-week Christmas holiday break, and as we get closer to that break, I will remind you. But otherwise, we are live Monday through Thursday from 10 to 10:55 a.m. Central Standard Time. So Monday to Thursday, you can join in on live classes and listen. And if you can't make it, then you can also watch archived classes. But tuning in live is the best option. You can phone into the studio using the two numbers at the top of the screen here, right? So you can phone in with one of those two numbers. You can listen to the radio, 91.9 FM. If you have Bell ExpressVu, you can tune into channel 972 and listen that way. And you can also, if you've got a decent enough internet connection, you can log in through Zoom. So the Zoom link is there. The Zoom link is on your study material. If you ask your DEC, if you email me, if you add me on Facebook, I can get you that Zoom link. But that's the Zoom link right here. For those of you who are watching this video on YouTube, I will include that link on the YouTube channel so you know what it is. So option number one is you listen or you watch live, and even better, ask some questions, or if we can make the courses interactive and you can phone in to ask questions and I can get feedback from students, that's probably the best case scenario. If we can't get that happening, that's no problem. We can still have a live lesson. And if you can't do any of those options, I will be posting all of my courses on my YouTube channel. So if you search for Laverty Wassa, you will find my YouTube channel. And the day after, I say the day after, that's probably, that's being really generous. I should have the first class up, today, but if I can't, then you'll certainly find it the day after. And I will organize them into playlists, and you'll see my playlist down here. So last term, I was teaching PLAR English, so you see two playlists here. So for OLC, you're going to see a third little block here, and it's going to say OLC Unit 1. And so all of my Unit 1 courses are going to be put into one playlist. And then once you've watched that playlist, you go on to the next one. So we meet for 9 weeks. That's 4 classes a day. There's going to be a lot of videos on the YouTube, and it will help you with this course. So with OLC4O, you're doing a lot of writing. So a lot of your assignments are grammar-based, and they're asking you to read a passage, underline this, but a lot of it is writing. So you need to get me your assignments, and the way to do that is to, go to your learning center if you have one in your community. Talk to your DEC to scan it, email it, fax it. So that's one option. You can go to your DEC, go to your learning center, get some help, and they will make sure it gets to me. You can do this on your own by scanning it, emailing it. If you don't have a scanner, there's lots of free apps you can use on your phone. I use Adobe Scan. It is free. Like a lot of apps out there, you can pay for the pro version, but you don't have to pay for the pro version. You can just use the Adobe Scan, and you can just snap pictures, turn them into PDFs. So The nice thing about Adobe Scan is that you can take photos with your camera and send them to me, and that's great if you've got a steady hand and if you can really line the shot up. Adobe Scan is meant to scan documents, and it'll straighten everything out. It'll automatically brighten it. Yeah, I highly recommend getting that app so you can just find a way to record your work and then send it to me at that email address. CC me, add me on the email. You can fax your pages. That's a toll-free fax, so that's a free fax line. If you can get yourself to a public library, or if you know somebody with a fax machine, use that fax number. It is toll-free. There's no charge. You can take photos with your phone, like I said, email it to me, or you can get me on Facebook Messenger and send me information that way. Here's how to reach me. This is the email address I prefer. mlaverty, let's see, that's the one I like. But they're both fine. They both work. I have two email addresses, mlaverty at either nnec.on.ca or nnecschools.org. Either one's great. Find me on Facebook. I am under Laverty, Wausau, or you can phone me at the Wausau office in Sioux Lookout at 807-737-1488, extension 2211. You might not get the extension. It might just go right to the operator or our receptionist. Just ask for Mike. They'll put you through to me. This is when I work. So I am at my desk from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. And of course, I am teaching from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. So if you had a question from 10 to 11, you would ideally be watching this live and phoning in with your question. If you got a question you don't want everyone to hear, then of course, maybe phone me from 9 to 3 during Monday to Friday. I'll be at my desk. I don't go for lunch. I may have stepped out to the washroom or, a quick coffee break, but I'm usually at my desk, so phone me, leave me a voicemail. I will get back to you. And that's how to reach me. So your next steps right now, this first step is really important. Number one, I need you to contact me in some way if you haven't done so already. Contact me through email, Facebook, Messenger, or phone or text. So get in touch with me. There's nothing, there's no criteria here. I'm not looking for anything. I just need to know that you have your course material and that you're able to get started. And I need to know that you're able to do that. And if you can't, then we got to figure that out together. So, and then I want you to make a plan for completing assignment 1. That's all I want you to do. So I want you to start, reading through the course material, but at the very least, just make a plan. The first assignment is really important. Sometimes it's really hard just to get started, but I feel that once you get started and once you put pen to page or once you start typing, you're going to feel a lot better. So a lot of today's class is going to be about this first assignment, and I want to set you up for success and to kind of get off on a really good start with that first assignment. So just one moment. I am going to, sorry, I'm a little out of practice. Haven't done this since last term. I'm gonna pull up my first slide deck. So and if I can, I'll see if I can. Oh, well, I don't have my, oh, well, that's okay. I was going to show you my Wausau Facebook. I'll do that tomorrow. I'm just realized I'm not logged in on this machine, and I'm not entirely confident I can figure out how to do that. So, okay. Okay, and how do we full screen this? There we go. Okay. Okay, So let's get started on Unit 1, Lesson 1, Assignment 1. So here's what we're going to do today. Here is today's lesson plan, Part 1. We are going to briefly review our OLC4O study guide. We're going to review Unit 1. We're going to do a quick review of the novel, Jimmy Comes Home. Now, these 3 documents are really important, and you should have all 3 right now. And if you don't have any of these documents, then it's going to be hard to get started. And that's where you need to contact myself or your DEC or anybody at one of the learning centers. Phone your local learning center, phone the WASA office. There's tons of people out here. We're here to help you. If you don't have your course material, you need to get it, and it's our job to get it to you, and we'll get it to you as fast as we can, but we need to know that you need it. So I can send you stuff through email, so I can email you any of these documents. So the preferred option is to put a physical piece of paper in the mail, get it to you, but if you need these documents, talk to me right away, and I will email them to you. So with that in mind, I'm actually gonna get started here. I'm gonna pull up the study guide for OLC4O. This is our study guide, OLC4O. So the OLC literacy course is typically taken by students who are in grade 11 and grade 12 high schools, or people who they don't complete the literacy test. They take this course as an alternative. So this course is here to help you acquire and demonstrate the cross-curricular literacy skills that are evaluated by the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test. This came into effect after I graduated high school. I think it came into effect around the year 2000. So everybody who gets a high school diploma must either pass this test or they must take the course that you're taking right now. So if the test or the course is successfully passed, it'll meet the provincial literacy requirement for graduation and also be counted as a full credit in English. And we'll just briefly, I've already gone through a little bit of this stuff. This is the ways you can get a hold of me. These are your course material. You should have all that material, right? Units 1 to 4 plus Jimmy Comes Home. Here's the breakdown of the course, right? 70% of your final mark is unit assignments. So these are the assignments that are listed in units 1, 2, 3, and 4. You will have a culminating activity in unit 4, which is your portfolio, which is 10% of your final grade. So that's going to be a collection of your writing. So in this course, you produce a lot of writing, but you also come back to it and make it even better. And that's a really important concept that I want to push strongly in this course. You don't just write something and get a grade and forget about it. Best case scenario, you write something, somebody gives you some feedback, and then you go back and make it better. So that's the way writing works. It's not like a one-off and done. It's somebody gives you feedback. Somebody says, you know what, you're doing really well here. This is working great. You might want to work on this. And this applies to a lot of fields of life, like playing music and being an athlete and working in a corporate office, working in construction, right? Think about construction, right? What if nobody ever gave you feedback? You would be a very dangerous person. Electricians, someone needs to inspect your work and say, look, you made a mistake. That's dangerous. You have to do this. So that's part of life. So I will give you feedback as this course progresses, and I'm hoping that you can use it to become stronger writers, better readers, and things like that. So I'm hoping the portfolio is going to be something you're proud of. It's going to be a collection of your favorite writing that you produced. It's going to be something that you're going to say, yeah, I did this. And I developed this through several drafts and made it better. So that's 10% of your final grade, and 20% of your final grade is your final exam. So depending on the situation in your home community, wherever you happen to find yourself today, hopefully we will have you write an exam. If we can't get you to write a final exam, you will do a final assignment. So this will be like a final writing assignment / test. So this is option number 1, right? A final exam. And then option number 2 will be, I'll just call it like an alternative assignment. So hopefully we'll have you write a final exam. If not, then we'll have to make other arrangements. But that's how your mark's going to break down. This is a general schedule. Things can change, go up and down, but this is basically what we're going to do. We're going to spend the first 12 classes going through Unit 1. We'll spend 8 classes doing Unit 2. Weeks 6 and 7, we will cover Unit 3. Weeks 8 and 9, we will cover Unit 9. And then in Unit 9, I will prepare you for the final exam by reviewing all the course material and getting you ready for that final exam. This assignment calendar is, again, it's a guideline. If it's week 5 and you still haven't been submitting work for Unit 1, I will still accept it and grade it. That's no problem. This is to keep you on track, to give yourself some accountability. Speaking from experience, from being a student in my life, I was a procrastinator. I left things to the last minute. And sometimes that worked for me, and if I'm being honest, I think most of the times it didn't. So this is when, if we're in week 4 of the course, you should have had your Unit 1 stuff submitted. Okay, does that make sense? So if it's week 6, you should have had all of your week 2 stuff submitted. And then the earlier you get me your work, the earlier I can mark it and give you some feedback, right? So if I'm getting a whole bunch of your work late in the course, I can give you feedback, but it's going to be really hard for you to use it and put it into effect. So this is to kind of keep you on pace. So these are sort of like deadlines. So before or during week 4, you should have Unit 1 taken care of. But ideally, you should be, by the time week 3 rolls around, you should have a lot of Unit 1 figured out. So don't leave this stuff to the last minute. Try to keep up with this schedule, and that's why I'm here to help. If you have to get started, you have to get some words on the page, and a lot on that later. Okay. The last part of the study guide is just simply some work habits. It's a lot of the stuff I've been talking about right now. Some of this stuff doesn't really apply, especially the collaboration, because you are for the most part, an independent learner. You're not in a classroom. You're not really collaborating with others. With that being said, I do strongly encourage you to find people you can collaborate with. If you live with someone, if you know someone you can email, if there's at least one person in your life who can read what you've written, that's fantastic. You need that as a writer, as a reader. It's great to have people who can read your stuff and give you some feedback. And again, that applies to pretty much any field I can think of. It doesn't matter what you want to do for a living, you need feedback. You need people to look at what you're doing and to give you some guidance and to say, you know what, this is working well. I don't think that's working well. Have you thought about doing this? I think sometimes we get lost and we get so focused on what we want to do. And all it takes is a 5-minute conversation with someone, and that can just reveal so much about what we're doing. And they might even see something in our work that we don't see. Like we might think our work sucks. We might think that our writing is not up to standard, or what we're doing doesn't make sense. But they'll read it and be like, no, this is great. I love this. Keep going, right? So you need to work with other people. And if you have someone in your life that can help you, then I strongly recommend you do that. The last 5 pages of this document. Just don't worry about it for now. We don't have access to these online courses, these online class archives. If you want to look at archived course material, then you are doing that through the YouTube channel. That's how you want to find archived class material. Okay, if that's what you need. If you need to find archived class material, then I want you to be looking through my YouTube channel, or other teachers who work at WASA. A lot of us are on YouTube, and we're putting things up there. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I just want you to show you how this works, right? So you've got your unit. Your unit packages. So this is unit 1 right here. So that's unit 1. I have all my contact info on the top page. Excuse me. We have, so again, it's just an introduction, table of contents, and then it gets into the assignments. And I really want you to focus on these assignments. I've been marking a lot of OLC assignments from independent learners, and one of the main problems is I think some of the students aren't reading the assignment guidelines carefully, and there's going to be some things in there that they ask you to do, and you have to do them if you want to get full marks for your assignment. So this first assignment is asking you to talk about the 7 grandfather teachings, and more specifically, what those teachings mean to you in your life. And you're producing a half a page of writing in paragraph format. So that's not a lot of writing. That's about 150 words, 200 words. It's not a lot. So it's important to be focused and more on this in about 10 minutes. We're going to talk about how we're going to produce material for this course, right? So you are submitting a rough copy and a final copy, right? So make sure you do both, right? You need to give me a rough copy and a final copy. Now, this is a really important part of the writing process, right? You need to just get your ideas on the page, and the rough copy, as long as it's there and there's content, you usually get full marks for the rough copy. I don't mark your rough copy on grammar and spelling. That's the whole point of a rough copy. It's just to get your ideas on the page. The final copy is where I'm going to be a little bit more, I'm going to have higher expectations from you to have your words spelled correctly, things of that nature. So let's jump right in. I'm seeing how much time I got left, and we need to get back into the lesson here. Okay. Let's go view. Okay, let's get going. Okay. So we have talked about the study guide, talked about unit 1. We've talked a little bit about Jimmy Comes Home. I'm going to go more into detail on this novel later on this week. We don't have time for it today. But just know that it's out there. Start reading it if you can. There's the cover of the book, Jimmy Comes Home. It's 83 pages, not a very long novel. It's 12 chapters long. I would say the subject matter is pretty difficult. There's a lot of bad stuff that happens to Jimmy and people who he knows in his community. It's not light reading. It's not like a funny, light-hearted book. It's kind of dark, but I think it's a very powerful book. So just it's important to know that going into the book. It's kind of dark. A lot of bad things happen, but I think in the end it's a positive book. It's about transformation, becoming a better person, overcoming your past, not being defined by your past. It's a great message, right? So I think that you find in a lot of books. So start reading it, and if you don't have a copy, let me know. I can send you a PDF, And we can send you the real thing, too. We can send you the actual book. So I like to talk about language and words and break things down and with these OLC classes. So I'd like to start off with a word of the day. And it's words plural because I like to do Ojibwe or Ojibwe and Ojibwe and English words. I like to do both, right? And just look at the difference between them. So we've got the 7 grandfather teachings are listed throughout this course. So I'd like to start with them. That's going to be our first 7 words. So the first word here we've got is wisdom. And bear with me. I'm working on my pronunciation. I'm hoping I'm doing this correctly. But we've got Nibawakawin, which is wisdom. And to cherish knowledge is to know wisdom. So it's to live with vision. This is commonly referred to as wisdom. I love this right here. This is provided from the 7 Generations Education Institute, which is a great organization. They provide training opportunities and courses for post-secondary students. And I love how they break down how the word wisdom in the language, and I think Anishinaabemowin and Ojibwe, way more than English, is how you can find like a story almost within the word. And this is true for every language across the world, is that every word is broken down into little pieces, and if you look at those pieces, they kind of tell a story. So we've got ni, the soul within, wa, pertaining to sight, ka, an abundance, and win, a way it is done. So it's how do these 4 elements combine together to tell us what wisdom is? So wisdom is seeing, seeing what's around us, seeing what's in the future, seeing what's in the past. The soul within, seeing the wisdom within ourselves, an abundance of it. So it's like, how do these 4 elements combine to represent wisdom, and what does wisdom mean? And think about that word if you want to use that for your first assignment. Now in English, the word wisdom is of course a noun, and more on that later. It's a thing. Its nouns they name people, places, or things, and it's the quality of being wise, or it's the body and knowledge and experience that develops within a specified society or a period of time. So wisdom is something that somebody has, like listen to her words of wisdom, or wisdom is something that's out there that belongs to a culture or a time. Like the wisdom of the Aztecs was almost lost after the Spanish tried to erase their culture. And when I thought about the 7 grandfather teachings, one of the first things that came to mind when I was introduced to this theory was sort of like, I don't think it's an equivalent. It's not the same thing, but it's similar to the 7 deadly sins and the 7 holy virtues that you find in Christian ideology, right? So these things are kind of like opposites, not entirely, but pride. And pride is not necessarily a bad thing. It's good to be proud of yourself, but not to the extent that you think that you're better than everybody. So humility, which is also one of the 7 grandfather teachings, is to be humble and to see your place in the world and to see, how small you are and how you have to serve others and help others. Pride is all about me and what I can do. Envy is wishing I had what other people had and, wishing I had more. Kindness is giving to people. Wrath is a great word. Wrath is just sort of like anger and now and just destroying everything. Patience, of course, is the opposite. Sloth, great word, just like the animal. Sloth is kind of doing nothing and lying on the couch. Diligence is being a hard worker. These 2 right here, avarice and gluttony, they're kind of the same thing. They're greed. Gluttony is usually associated with food and drink. But, you know, the kind of the same thing, right? So the avarice and gluttony is just doing whatever's good for you and not worrying about your health and eating and drinking and whatever you want. And temperance and abstinence are living a controlled life. And then lust and chastity, of course, those are kind of diametrically opposed concepts, right? So, and that leads me to a little bit of a breakdown of words themselves, right? So synonyms are words that have the same or similar meaning, and then antonyms is a word with an opposite or a very different meaning. So this concept will come up a lot. Syno means same, anto means different, nym means a word, or it means a name. So these are ancient Greek. We'll touch more on that later, okay? So we are reviewing the 9 parts of speech. So I like to do this on the first class, and I'll be doing this for many classes. You all need to become experts on the 9 parts of speech, and here they are. A noun, we just talked about it, names a person, place, or thing. Examples would include teacher, Sioux lookout, happiness. Verbs are the action words. These are the doing words, and a lot of them will end in ing. So run, ran, running. Pronouns, words that take the place of a noun. I, he, she, or it. They usually come after a noun. Adverbs, this is how an action is done. So it's right there in the word. It modifies the verb. So how did he skate? He skated quickly. He began his work slowly. She delivered her presentation expertly, right? They tell us how something was done. Adjectives, they describe a noun. And I mentioned the 5 senses, so soft, bright, red, sour, hot. So they take a noun and they tell us what it's like. I can tell you that I lived in a small apartment, right? Or if I tell you I lived in Winnipeg for 7 years, which is true, and I lived in an apartment, sure, that's great. What if I told you I lived in an old, small apartment? That's a little better, right? I lived in a bad neighborhood. It just helps, right? What kind of neighborhood was it? A bad one. A lot of good people in that neighborhood, but, it was a pretty rough one, right? So adjectives are descriptive words. They describe things, right? And they don't describe verbs. They describe nouns. Articles, the best way, it's kind of hard to describe what an article is. All you have to know is there's 3 of them, a, an, and the. There's 3 of them. They're called articles, a, an, and the. Conjunctions. These join words or groups of words together. And, but, yet. We could add a few more. However. They join words together. That's what they do, right? And there's usually a relationship between them. It's like, I tried to get to the concert, but I got a flat tire, right? So there's the first part of the sentence, and then the word but sets up the next part of the sentence. There's prepositions. These are relationship words. They usually talk about the relationship between nouns or things in the sentence. So from, in, beside, on, under, over. So it tells where something is. It tells where I am. It shows where I'm going. It shows where I am in relation to somebody else. So, I went out for dinner with friends. I sat beside my wife. There was a cat under the table. There was a bottle of Pepsi on the table, right? I could hear music over there. So it tells us where stuff is, where it is in relation to me, that kind of thing. Interjections is part 9. These usually end in an exclamation mark like wow, or hey, or oh. That's an interjection. So those are the 9 parts of speech. So I'm going to save this part for a later time, but we could write examples of that and maybe try to write a sentence that had all 9 parts of speech in it. I'd like to give a headline for each one of our classes. This is today's headline. So last year, of course, Will Smith had the famous slap, or I guess the infamous slap that was heard around the world. And in 2023, Jimmy Kimmel to return as Oscars host in 2023. So that's the headline. That's the blurb about it. You could look at this little blurb. I got this from the Globe and Mail. I have a subscription. I love the Globe and Mail newspaper. I read it every day. Well, Globe and Material. Wow. No, it's the Globe and Mail. So that's the headline. I want to break that headline down. So Jimmy Kimmel to return as Oscars host in 2023. Now I've color-coded this because I've got the nouns in blue, I've got the prepositions in red, my verbs are in green, my adjectives are in pink, my adjectives are in orange, and so I've got it all color-coded. And here's the breakdown, okay? So Jimmy Kimmel. Now, Jimmy Kimmel is a person, right? So remember, a noun is a person, a place, or a thing. Now, Jimmy Kimmel is not just a person. He's a specific person. So it's a proper noun. So we capitalize J, we capitalize K. So Jimmy Kimmel's a proper noun. To is a preposition. It gives a relationship. Return is what he's doing. It's a verb, right? As is a conjunction. It's a connecting word. Oscars. Now, even though the Oscars is a thing, right? The Oscars is like the awards, it's the Academy. Oscars is modifying this word. So Jimmy Kimmel is a host, and a host is a noun. But what kind of a host is he? He's an Oscars host. So sometimes a word can be many different things, but depending on the context, it changes it, right? So what kind of a host is Jimmy Kimmel? He's an Oscars host. In is a preposition, and 2023 is a thing. It's an idea. It's a year. So that's a noun, right? So this is how the English language works. So not every language in the world has all 9 parts of speech. Some languages don't have pronouns. Some languages only have like one tense. They don't have past tense. They don't have future tense. So humans have found tens of thousands of ways to make languages, and I think language is one of the coolest and amazing things about being a human. But we all use the 9 parts of speech. We don't use all of them, but we use them to make languages, right? There's no language ever been discovered that didn't use some of these 9 parts of speech. So this is just how we communicate with each other, and it's really important to know what these things are. And you may not know what a preposition is, but you use it all the time. So I think a lot of the things in this chorus, you know them. You've used them since you were 2 years old or even younger. In your, like, it's part of who you are. You know what these things are. You just need a name to attach to it. So it seems complicated. Words like conjunction, preposition, they might seem kind of clunky and overwhelming, but you know what they are, and you've been using them for a long time. So, as I mentioned, nouns are a word that names something, person, place, or thing, or an idea, but a proper noun is here's the important word, it's a very specific name of a person, place, or thing, and it is always capitalized. Here's an example. So there are over 900 high schools in Ontario. I graduated from Queen Elizabeth District High School in 1999. So this high school right here is lowercase, right? Because I'm talking about high schools in general. I'm talking about the idea of high school, right? But Queen Elizabeth District High School, which no longer exists, now it's Sioux North High School, that school is a specific school. So it has to be capitalized, right? So If you're talking about a specific school, it should be capitalized. But if you're just talking about, I hope to graduate high school someday, that's not a specific high school. That's just the idea of high school. So it does not get capitalized. Okay, with our remaining time here, we will jump right into assignment 1. So it's really good to make a plan for these writing assignments and to know what is expected of me, what's going to get the highest marks. And so I've broken it down for you, right? So it asks for a half page of writing in paragraph format. So a half page of writing, especially if you're writing by hand, depending on how small you write, that could be a very different amount of words, right? So I want to see about 150 to 250 words, okay? So if you're writing with a pen and paper, I want you to count your words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Count them up. And if you can do this in 100 words, and I feel that you've expressed yourself well enough, you'll get full marks. But I think most people, you're going to need about 150 words to 250 words to pull this off, okay? Again, I want a rough copy and I want a final copy. Your submitted assignment will discuss what the 7 grandfather teachings mean to you. If you look at the assignment guidelines, they mention the novel Jimmy Comes Home. You don't have to talk about the novel Jimmy Comes Home. If you've read the novel Jimmy Comes Home and you can make connections between that novel and your life and the 7 grandfather teachings, that's awesome, but it's not a requirement. What you have to do is you've got to discuss the 7 grandfather teachings and what they mean to you. Now, there are 7 grandfather teachings. It's going to be hard to talk about all 7 in one paragraph, right? So I strongly recommend that you focus your work and only talk about a couple of them, right? So when we're writing, we have to realize that writing is a process, and I would argue that it's an art form. And everybody's going to have their own style and method. It's just like playing music, right? There's no one way to play music. We all have our style and our methods. But if we want to be songwriters or if we want to be writers, there's going to be tips and strategies that should work for most, if not all of us writers. So we're going to talk about a few of these methods in the hopes of getting you started on your first assignment in this course. So it's important to realize that you're going to have your own style as a writer, and you're going to find it with this chorus. But I want you to try to use some of these tips and strategies to get yourself started. The writing process can be broken down into 5 basic steps, okay? Planning, writing, revising, editing, and finally, publishing. Now, the first 4 steps, some people call this a recursive process, which is just a fancy word for meaning it kind of repeats, right? So like your planning process might lead to your writing, and the writing might bring you back to the planning. And after you write, you're going to revise, but then your revising will bring you back to more writing, and then you'll edit some more, and then after you edit, you might revise your work, and then you might come back and, so it's like you don't plan, write, revise, edit. You're sort of doing you're doing the planning, and then you're writing, and then you're revising, and then you might come back and write a bit more. So these 4 steps are going to happen, and then once you've decided it's done, then you publish. And by publishing, that means just sending it to your teacher, putting it out in the world, putting it on Facebook, putting it onto a blog, right? It's done, it's ready to go. So, step 1. I want you to pick 1 to 3 of the 7 grandfather teachings, and I would lean towards 1 or 2, right? So I think for 1 paragraph, writing is all about focus, a lot of it, right? So one of the main flaws that people have when they begin their writing journey, when they're just starting out, when they're in high school or completing high school courses, I think sometimes a lack of focus can really limit your ability to say what you want to say. So it's important to focus your writing. And a paragraph should really be about one or two things. So I would pick one, at most three of the 7 grandfather teachings. Look at that list of 7 grandfather teachings and just, which one just jumps out at you? Like, which one do you want to write about? And then I want you to write down as many words, ideas, memories, etc. as you can for each of those teachings. Then I want you to pick 3 to 5 words or ideas, your top 5, and these are the ones that they'll be the easiest for you to write about. And then once you have your top 5, I want you to make connections between and among them. And is there a theme or a big idea? So what's really important here is when you're writing your assignment, you don't just jump in and just start writing it. It's really important to just do some pre-planning, and I guarantee you it's going to pay off. So really quickly, I would do that. So, I would write down wisdom, and, wisdom and love, okay? Those are the two that I would think about, and I would say my experience in school, what that's meant to me. I would talk about the mentors I've had in my life. I would talk about maybe some heroes I've had in my life, and maybe I would talk about my favorite writers. And then for love, the first thing that come to mind would be my family. My friends, and let's do one more. Let's just say, I'll talk about my wife, more specifically, right? So when we're jotting down things, these can be ideas, these can be words, they can be, they can just be random things, right? So I've got my list, and I've got the 2 grandfather teachings here, and that's what I'm gonna roll with. And then you can take that idea a bit further, right? And you could pick one of those things. So I'm gonna say mentors. And I'm gonna say, teachers I've had. I'm gonna say my grandma. I'm gonna say my parents. Say my favorite writers. Maybe my favorite movies. And again, we're talking about wisdom here. So where have I found wisdom? Writing, stuff like that, right? So I'm just trying to make associations, right? So I'm thinking, I'm going to write about wisdom, and I'm going to write about the teachers who I've had in my life, who have been my teachers. And then maybe just, I don't know, some random people you meet in your life who just drop some wisdom on you, right? So maybe stuff like that, or my lessons, what have I learned? I don't know. I'm just putting down the first things that come to my mind, right? So this is probably the focus that I'm going to go with if I'm writing this assignment. And then I'm gonna close today's class with this idea, okay? Sometimes, and maybe all the time for some people, it's really hard just to get started because we don't know what we want to say. So people, they don't know what they want to say, and they get stuck. This is what we call writer's block. Or sometimes we expect our writing to be perfect or great right away. So you really want to get away from that kind of thinking. You don't expect your writing to be good just by putting pen to the paper, right? Sometimes we use writing as a way to figure out what we want to say. So don't expect your writing to make sense or be great right off the bat. Use writing as a tool to get there, right? So just write. So when you start any writing project, this is really important. The most important thing is to get ideas on the page. And those ideas can be rough. They can be choppy. They don't have to be spelled right. You just have to get ideas on the page. And one useful way to do this is what we call free writing. So here's how we free write. We look at the list of words that we generated on step 1. So I generated a list of words and ideas there. I generated mentor and planner and teacher and favorite movies and favorite books and things like that. Okay, so I've got my list. Then I've got my list of words. Then I set a timer for 5 minutes. I start the timer and I write as many words as I can before the time runs out. Okay? And I should say, not just words. I mean, you're writing in full sentences here, okay? In step 3, you start your timer and you write. And you write as much as you can in 5 minutes. And you do not stop. You let the words flow, okay? That is really important, okay? You start the timer and you just simply write. If you've got a pen and a paper, start writing. Get as many words on the page as you can. If you're on a computer, start typing. Count how many words you have by the end of it. Now, I love this meme of Fry from Futurama. I'm not sure if I've conquered writer's block or if I'm writing nonsense. Don't worry about making sense. Very important concept. If you can't think about something to write, write about that. Say, I've got this stupid assignment and I can't think about what I want to write. What am I going to write about? Maybe I could write about this. Like, have a conversation with yourself. And it seems weird at first, but I trust you. It works. The most important part about free writing is not stopping. You have to train your brain to just simply generate ideas. And this applies to a lot of art forms like music and writing and being an illustrator and drawing. You have to train your brain to just do it and not stop and not worry about making sense. You just simply have to get ideas on the page. And then once the ideas are on the page, that's when we start revising and editing. But of course, we're out of time, so we're going to jump up on that next week. We're going to jump up on the revision process. So try the free writing exercise, give that a shot, and we'll meet back tomorrow and talk about forming our ideas into, something that makes a little more sense.